What's up, DubNation? This is Rich with Let's Go Warriors, and this is the podcast version, our latest podcast from an edited live stream that my co-host Dean Chambers and I did recently. And yeah, it's about how to get Naz Reid from the Minnesota Timberwolves over to the Warriors. So we are on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube, obviously. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and also set your notifications so that you can get the latest reasoned arguments for various trade scenarios that are going to pop up more frequently as we approach the draft and free agency on July 6th. So part of what is happening with this podcast is that we're going to try and teach you the healthiest way to kind of follow all these various trades that you might see on your timeline. And so I hope to really, in that way, earn your subscription, your notification, your like, and your comment. Go ahead and comment and let me know what you think about our pursuit of Naz Reid. And a lot of it also has to do with just kind of how you approach all of these things that you might see on your timeline. It's kind of like NBA media in general, information versus entertainment. That's kind of beyond the scope of this sort of tutorial. And I hope to maybe do a video someday of how to sort through the jungle of NBA media. But for now, I just want to let you know that there's a follow-up video to this Naz Reid idea. We've got to make sure everything fits within the cap sheets of both teams and any other teams that are involved. And you'll see that Dean mentions his idea to relieve the cap sheet of some second apron burden is to go ahead and trade out JK for Cam Johnson. And so one thing we didn't mention really in our talk is first round draft picks. And so the Warriors have quite a few available. And I think for me, since we had the live stream, Naz Reid has risen up for me personally as cream of the crop target. I think he's actually more desirable now for me if I'm looking in the best interests of the Warriors. I think he's actually a little bit more valuable than Lauri Markkanen, not from a physical standpoint, but from a mental standpoint, because Naz Reid obviously has 2 straight Western Conference finals under his belt. And we just saw that youth hurt us a little bit. So having playoff experience, which Markkanen does not have yet, is going to push Naz Reid over the top for me. So again, I think there's a second follow-up video to this to really go through all of those final details of making sure the cap sheets are all in balance and whatnot. And so let's go back in time and give you the podcast version of my discussion of Naz Reid and a few other things with Dean Chambers from last week when we did a watch party during the Steph Curry CNBC special and the Valkyries game, which we often do. So if you want to hop on one of our lives and give us your input, ask us to look at different other trade scenarios. Again, our philosophy is find the biggest target and just worry about the biggest target. Don't worry about all these other veteran minimum signings, all of these side pieces, guys that are making around the taxpayer mid-level or non-taxpayer mid-level. Let's look for the bigger fish and let's root for the Warriors in that way and not get caught in all these little smaller fish. I hope that made sense. And finally, the last thing that I need to preface this podcast with is that you can go and Google this. Bovado, the sports betting site, they recently had the Warriors as the top team in terms of odds of landing Naz Reid. Now, we never really know how the sports books come up with these odds. So who knows? But we do make references to those Bovado odds in this podcast. So just to let you know. All right, let's go back in time. Apparently, KOC said everyone on Pelicans is expendable. Let's look at Trey Murphy. Okay, let's just go ahead and dive into one of these. Pelicans. Actually, let's use capsheets.com. It's a little bit better for the immediate year. Capsheets.com. And we will go to New Orleans. Oh, I also want to go look at the long-term contract of Trey Murphy as well. Okay, 25 million. So the super awesome rookie deal is now over. Okay, 25 million. The Warriors don't have many salaries to send out. That's close to that, unless it's Moody and Buddy Hield. Why would New Orleans do that? Moody and Buddy Hield. It's not attractive at all. Unless you're sending draft picks. Actually, before we go into Trey Murphy, for all of these, I always start with the most ideal trade. And for me, it's still Markkanen. Naz Reid is up there, though, if you can convince me that Minnesota would actually part with him. So I think we'll push Trey Murphy down to a little bit later. So yeah, I always want to start at the top. So starting at the top, my ideal trade would be for Markkanen. That's the one that I would spend first round picks on, because every time you go online or to Twitter and people are showing you all these trade speculation, they always want to throw in a first round pick like Naz Reid. Why would they take Moody? Oh, throw a first round pick or 2 or 3 for that, which again, I think he's pretty high on the list for the Warriors. Let's start at the top. Markkanen's the guy that I would empty the cupboard for. And we talked about it already. It would cost a lot to get him. So it would gut the roster. So therefore, just keep JK and wait until February to see about getting Lauri. What is the path to your most desirable guy? Is there anybody else out there? Giannis, I don't think is possible, because Giannis is the only one I have that's of that tier, and he's unattainable just because of all the other assets that other teams have. Example, Spurs. Spurs have way more assets. And if Jimmy's contract is to be the enabler of that, I don't see the Bucks wanting Jimmy Butler's contract. Okay, so again, you can't just walk into all of these rumors and tweets and sort out all the detail without knowing what you want. And I think what I want is to get Lauri Markkanen, first of all, to join Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy. Now, Naz Reid is a pretty close approximation. So to get Lauri right now, it would cost too much. We went through that exercise in the previous analysis. It had a dramatic gut of the squad. On the previous live that we did about this, it was just way too much. You have to send out Mo and Buddy and probably Pods, because to sign JK at the required level of 32.6 million, you would go over the second apron. And I don't even know if it's possible. So you'd have to stay under the second apron, I think. And to do that, you'd have to throw in Pods or send them out somewhere. It's very complicated. So start at the top. What's your dream trade? For me, it's Lauri. Very difficult to have happen, especially with the 50% of the Kuminga salary in play, base year compensation rule of the CBA. And so in this scenario, if you want to get Lauri Markkanen, then if he's still on the Jazz, and you never know, because if Giannis gets traded, if KD gets traded, all of these like bigger dominoes start to fall, then there's ripple effects. You just never know the fallout, and it could get pretty wild. So you never know. So in that case, maybe Utah trades Lauri to some other team. Then you got to go down to your next guy on the list. And I would say Naz Reid is right up there. It's good for Dean to hop on and talk about that. Where are you, Dean? You need to explain yourself. He's on. Yay, just in time.
How's it going?
Whoa! Whoa! Dean Chambers.
Been a while, huh?
Unbearded Dean Chambers. Is that really you?
I think so. Are you?
Congratulations for graduating, Dean.
Thank you, man.
Okay, Dean, let's pull up the Minnesota cap sheet and go ahead and walk us through this if you could.
To me, a big part of this would be Reid opting in for this one.
Okay.
right? In part because it would allow us to have his full bird rights, which I'm not sure are quite the same for a sign and trade. But with the opt-in and trade, we would have his full bird rights. And then we would have to sign him to a larger contract next year at the end of the offseason. And then I connected it with, I understand what you're saying about Randall, but to me, I was thinking Randall played so well that it would be more important for them to get another wing next to Ant than to keep a backup center for, I don't know how much Naz would make, but it would be probably enough to put them near or over the second. Actually, this is for 2026 on the left. Okay. And what's their total right now?
196.
Yeah. So the second apron's 207, right?
First apron's 195.9.
They're already over the first apron. And I think people were talking about Nickeil Alexander-Walker, right? Him getting a new contract. So the both of them together might be a little too rich for them. The other thing, though, for Reid, on Reid's side is, he would be playing starter minutes for sure. Like, he would be the starting center on this team, right?
Yeah.
And then Kerr's system, having a stretch big, I see a little, other than just like the hairstyle, I see a little Looney style handoff, pick and roll type stuff at the top of the key. Totally. So,
do you have an in with Bovado? Is that how they came up with this? That's amazing, Dean.
Yeah, I just speak it into existence, and the basketball world bows at my feet. That's why we got Markkanen last year.
Yeah.
What did you say? I'm kidding.
That is crazy. That is crazy, though. Don't forget, Spyrit was asking the machinations of this trade. I think it's complicated because we don't know what Minnesota wants to do.
This would be opting in.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's not a sign and trade. It's just trade.
Yeah, you just
immediately trading the contract he already has.
But then
Moody's is already kicked in, so his would be the full amount as well.
But then you're saying we would tell him that, okay, we're going to give you an extension and it's going to be fat.
Yeah, we get his bird rights. Yeah.
In that case, there's no way we keep JK because we need to pay Naz.
I was thinking about that, and the Cam Johnson thing could work. You might have to include Buddy Hield because of his larger contract, might not, depending how far below the aprons the teams want to get. But Cam Johnson would, for the Nets, who obviously have the cap space to be able to take on JK. First and foremost, I would give you a starting lineup of Steph, Jimmy, Cam, Dre, and Naz. I think that would fit.
So you're saying do the sign and trade JK for Cam?
Yeah.
Gotcha. If it's all to get Naz Reid, I'm all for that. 21 million. Wow, 21 million. It's rather high. Okay, I'd have to do a separate live, I think, to just do all the spreadsheets necessary for this. But I did have a Cam exercise that we did last time.
Spirit said, Naz Reid said publicly that this season will have money as the priority. I don't think he's opting in. That's up to him. He has a player option.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not like if he got traded to the Warriors that we break that promise and not pay him later. Here's the thing, though. If he opts out, he either can be a free agent, right, for a bunch of teams that don't have cap space.
One team. Detroit's got like 25. So
yeah, Detroit maybe. And that wouldn't be a bad fit necessarily. There are a lot of centers on that team, though. Or he could try and do a sign and trade, and that you basically are capped at the first apron if you take on a sign and trade. And a lot of teams aren't going to be able to do that versus going to a place that fits where you'll be playing starters minutes, who will have your bird rights, who will sign you to a large contract next year. That's why I'm thinking it makes sense that you would opt out, but you could also do the whole bet on yourself thing and find a year of a contract and go to a place where you won't be coming off the bench. But it's by no means a guaranteed thing. I wasn't trying to suggest that.
No, that's a good point. No, this is a good exercise. A lot of moving parts, crazy. But yeah, it's a good time for those interested in Naz Reid that there aren't many teams out there with the cap space to just sign him outright.
And the Timberwolves could sign him, obviously. But then again, we're getting into the now you have to bench, I think, Randall, Naz, or Gobert. Maybe you could play all three. Maybe you could play all three together, but that's not how they were playing.
So how about this? Thank you, Naz Reid, for having a bad playoffs. Did he have a bad, not against us, against OKC? It wasn't that great, as I recall.
Spirit said, just Google Naz Reid this season, money as priority.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We'll Google it then.
I keep seeing
Naz Reid.
It's the Timberwolves saying it's a priority for them to re-sign him.
Oh, Fisher. Jake Fisher, he's reliable to opt out. Okay, Jake Fisher, Mark Stein. Okay, that's good enough. Mark Stein, Jake Fisher.
But again, free agency to go where?
Yeah, exactly. Well, gosh, I think it is hard for an NBA player to stomach a $15 million contract when you know that's a low number for what you're worth. Despite what I thought was a subpar OKC series for Naz Reid,
Yeah.
he's definitely worth way more than 15 million. I put him around probably at least 25, maybe
Sure.
more. I'd probably throw him in the 30 range considering just how he would fit with the Warriors. So
If we traded for him, could we start extension talks as soon as we got him? You know?
yeah, why not? Don't you think? Isn't that what we did with Jimmy? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That was during the season. But yeah, you're right. Jimmy. Yeah, exactly.
Kimbo's asking about trade exceptions. I'm not too.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I'm not too. What's the word? Skilled with trade exceptions. I think there is one rule that's like you have to be under probably the first apron to be able to use a trade exception. Yeah, that's a tough one, but it is really interesting how Bovado and you at the same time thought about it as a possibility. So I'm glad we talked about it. Boy, I'd love to do a spreadsheet here and change Cam Johnson's name or any of these names to Naz Reid and fiddle around with it, but it's just so many moving parts. Number one, is he going to opt in? And number two, does Minnesota want to do a sign-in trade, which then his salary going out would be 50% of whatever they signed him for.
For who?
Oh, Naz Reid, sign-in trade. It's so complicated that I don't even.
That's why I'm thinking Naz Reid doesn't opt out and it's a trade and extend rather than a sign and trade. Because it limits the number of teams you can go to, especially contenders, I would say.
The thing to look out for July 1st is if Naz Reid opts in or not. If he opts in, he's probably getting traded. But even if he opts out, I don't know. It's fascinating. Golly, it's complicated.
How you liking the second apron, Rich?
I like it now.
You do?
Because teams like OKC won't be a dynasty for 10 years. I'm greedy. I want the Warriors to be the last dynasty.
I want the Warriors to still be a dynasty, though. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I'm fine with it. I just wish they took into account, like, we shouldn't be penalized for re-signing JK because we drafted him. Or Steph. I wish they took into account the teams that are paying players a lot of money that they drafted. Isn't that the point? What is OKC going to do? Most of their guys are going to come from the draft. Not Shea. They got him from the Clippers. But the fact that there's no provision for that, that's the biggest problem I have.
Even with the second apron, OKC remains quite positioned well with all those draft picks, so they can kind of reload.
Yeah, but it sucks having to get rid of guys who you grew into potentially champions just for money. Yeah. That's really too bad.
At some point, we'll probably have to get rid of. I'm just speculating ahead. I haven't actually looked at it, but Lou Dort, they just can't keep him anymore because he's proven what he's worth and he's making more and more. Or basically, it'll just come down to your big three. You can handle 3 max contracts: Shea, J-Dub, and Chet.
Yeah, but Shea's going to be making what the MVP is going to be making, like a quarter of the whole team's salary. It's going to be like $76 million a year.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And small market teams, they can't pay like that unless you give them help for guys that they didn't acquire via free agency or trades. Big market teams do that all the time. Small market teams and teams that want to keep their best players on the same team, which Duncan, Kobe, Dirk, Steph, obviously, you think maybe not Giannis, maybe, but Jokic. That's the best part of basketball is when you have a great player staying with the team and when you help teams to build organically, like the Bulls, right? That's why people love the Bulls, even though they're a super team. They mostly did it organically. Same with the Warriors, 2015, 16, 22, all that. The whole KD thing, we should have been punished financially for having Kevin Durant on the team. I have no problem with that. But the Celtics considering getting rid of Jaylen Brown because they drafted him and Tatum, and it's going to be super expensive. That's not how teams become beloved and great dynasties in NBA history. I'm really upset with that side of it, and I hope they'll change it. But I've been saying that for years now.
Oh, and OKC being a small market, which will probably not want to do repeater tax.
The smallest market, I think, by the way. In the NBA.
Yeah, they probably don't want to do the repeater tax thing. So then they'd probably get off of one of
You'd have to get under the tax.
And then recycle all these other first-round draft picks. So Sam Presti's done the most masterful job that you can to set up a small market team in this environment.
Yeah.
Is just you stockpile those picks and make sure you got a 1A, and then...
But will the 1A be willing to rebuild, waiting for these picks to... Guys don't have long windows unless they win a lot.
It's new territory for them too going forward, but it's like capitalism. It's kind of actually the opposite. I still smell the stench of greed in there somehow. Basically, it was just 30 governors, the mentality of 30 governors.
The other thing is they are playing into parity for the teams that don't spend money, so you might be able to compete while not paying the tax. Like, why help those owners? They get the revenue, and the teams that spend the tax don't get the revenue back. Revenue sharing. So you're helping teams be cheap and help them get better.
As long as there's more...
help the members that pay the most.
Yeah, the problem is the 16 governors will vote over the other 14.
Oh.
I don't ever see it really changing. Even the suggestion by Spirit, 10% tax write-off for re-signing drafted players. How would you get enough votes for that out of the 30 governors? Wouldn't there always be 16 governors that say, nah?
It would help you have better teams with draft picks while paying less money in the tax. But
Yeah.
they want the big markets to pay this huge amount of tax so they get our money. They don't want to spend their money. They want our money.
That's why Adam Silver is revered so much, because then he always brings in the tide that lifts all boats. His job is safe for a long time. Aim Assist wants us to move on here. So what's your next guy on the list after Naz?
That's Lauri, number one for me, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have a number 3 because I think coming up with 2 of them is pretty good.
Yeah, I like Lauri, and then the whole Naz Cam Johnson thing. I think that team does actually work. It's size and shooting, and veteran know-how. Kerr would love him. I love JK, but getting under the first apron with those 2 guys for Moody and JK, and probably Buddy Hield for finances, that would allow you to get... I want Seth and Melt, those 2 guys on the roster. Even if we sign those guys to vet mins, we'd still have a mid-level about $5.5 million to be able to use. I'd be excited for that team. I think they would fit well together. Definitely have a lot more shooting too. So that's my 3: is Lauri or Naz and Cam if we have to trade. But other than that, I don't think we should make a huge move. If we can't get something like Lauri or something like that other trade, I think you just bite the bullet, because getting value back in JK is so hard this year.
Yeah. You know? That's why all the rest of the rumor / clickbait just doesn't rock my boat. All the other trade rumors like Vucevic, Lonzo Ball, Porzingis, I don't even know how you get Porzingis, Trey Murphy, Kobe White, Bruce Brown, MPJ. It's tough for me to settle on those types of guys.
Brook Lopez as an idea is cool, but he's like 39. Too old, man. On a young team, sure. Actually, he would be great on the Thunder. But for us, with 38, 36, it's too old.
Wait a minute, but Brook Lopez is a free agent, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
So how in the world would we get him?
Taxpayer mid-level.
Oh, I see.
Maybe.
That's $6 million.
Something like that, yeah. $5.5 million.
Lonzo Ball has an injury issue as well.
I don't want another thin guard. We've got guards, man. We've got some pretty good guards already on this team. You need size, positional size, and shooting, like Lauri or Cam Johnson.
Yeah, so that's why all those other names, Lonzo Ball, Sam Hauser, Kobe White, Trey Murphy, Bruce Brown, MPJ, are there any ones that are around the margins type guys?
I thought Hauser was a good one for that marginal type thing, but I don't remember how much he makes.
Let's take a look. Okay, it's $10 million. Hauser for Moody.
Yeah, I think Moody has more value than that, especially if we attach maybe a pick or something. And then, no, you can't do that. You'd have to wait for the Celtics to be under the second apron. Otherwise, they can't take more money back.
Sam Hauser, his name is being thrown out there because they're trying to reduce their salary. So it would be Moody wouldn't actually go to the Celtics. He'd go somewhere else. That would be either Moody or Buddy. It would be multiple team trades. I think we're going to see a lot of multiple team trades and very few straight up ones.
Oh, the Celtics will have to do that to get both Holiday and Porzingis off. As long as they're separate trades, you can send Holiday here and then route Porzingis to that same team through a third team and blah, 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 blah. As long as it's less money, even if you're in the second apron. You can't combine them together in one trade. It has to be separate transactions.
It would be nuts. We're going to do something on draft day. The hard part with free agency is when do you go live? Because anything can drop at any moment in time. Wasn't there something that dropped like in the middle of the night? I forget.
KD to the Suns happened while we were winding up a live stream. And then obviously Luka. I was at work. We went out for a break, and you texted me like Luka's on the Lakers.
That's crazy.
That was absolutely insane. And they got Cooper flagged. My goodness. What a league, huh?
What a league.
Yeah.
And then Adam Silver today at NBA Finals practice. Along the lines of that's why you don't tank or something like that. I'm glad Dallas didn't tank or something like that. Something to that effect. Maybe not those exact words. You saying that isn't going to change teams from tanking. They're still going to tank. Maybe they need 5 consecutive years of a total surprise number one.
I'm just waiting for Cooper Flag to be great and cost them so much money that they'll have to get rid of him because of the second apron, yeah?
Yeah. Wait, is that a beer?
Yeah, it's hot.
Oh, we got Dean Clay Thompson Chambers here. And D'Anthony Melton, yeah, we've always said we'd love to have him.
Obviously, we can't offer him the kind of contract we paid this year.
Yeah.
But I can see like an OPJ, Otto Porter Jr. type thing where you take 1 year and get a big contract after that. That's exactly what Porter Jr. did.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any other reclamation projects out there that we usually like to hunt for. I'll repeat what I said earlier. Is we've thought about Markkanen, we've thought about Naz Reid.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody else. And I'm sure Mike Dunleavy and Kirk Lacob and all the guys, Kent Lacob, everybody working over there at the Warriors have these massive spreadsheets of different possibilities and probably, I wonder what software they use.
They probably developed their own AI.
You have millions of dollars from the Golden Goose, aka Chase Center. Spend that money on some technology that helps you keep track of all this stuff. Because I'll tell you one thing, they're not doing it for the clicks like you see all the time on those apps.
Some organizations do, but I don't think the Warriors operate that way.
Yeah, so I think you just got to take all these rumors with a grain of salt and understand that it's more for entertainment right now than information. And really, there's not going to be more than a handful of people with information, starting with Shams. Slater can confirm or deny other things, and probably other things he's not allowed to say. Monty Poole, and then there's Jake Fisher, Mark Stein. Those guys will have inside info. But other than that, it's a lot of speculation and a lot of trade scenarios. Do they make sense or not? It's hard for me to really dive into that just because there's so many other big fish that need to be fried first. Like the NBA is really a pecking order type league. People have to know whether Giannis is staying at Milwaukee, and then 29 other GMs have their own strategies based on that. If you're really in play for Giannis, say the Spurs, or maybe today I saw Houston, obviously KD's been said to make a good fit there perhaps. And so all of those bigger dominoes in play, unfortunately, we have to let those dominoes fall first. And then at the end of the day, you're like, nobody can really predict it. So sit back in the most comfortable chair you can find and just let that timeline come through. And I promise you, by then, the Discord will be ready. It should be ready by the draft. Even for people that want just the free version, we'll have some availability for that by then. That'll be a great way to keep track. Of course, you can always check your Twitter timeline, but it'll be a mess. And then it's hard to go back. And Discord, it gets its feeds from the brightest minds on Twitter. So it's already filtered that way. And you can just scroll back up to see it. Whereas Twitter has evolved into an app that's very hard to track what you've already read. It's going to be fun to keep track of everything that's going on over there. Okay, so we probably have people jumping on kind of late here. Sabres a little late tonight. Kuminga, Moody, and picks to Nets. I wouldn't want to do picks at all because I want to keep my picks just in case. I don't know, just in case Markkanen's available in February. I don't even know if we're going to keep Looney and Gary Payton. What if Looney gets offered $4 million from the Lakers or something. I don't know that we can afford them. We're going to need veteran minimums here on our cap sheet. This is our cap sheet. Don't forget, guys, you only get one NBA career, right? Usually to fill out the roster, we can only do veterans minimums because our payroll from Draymond, Steph, and Jimmy, and now JK is going to be a bigger salary that we'll have to figure out what to do with. And so that leaves basically slots that need to be filled at veterans minimum. And that even takes us beyond either the luxury tax line or the first apron or even possibly the second apron. You never know. And that's why you can't just sign somebody over the veterans minimum. To fill out your squad, the rules say that you can fill out your squad as long as they're veterans minimums. So you can't just put any free agent above the veterans minimum here. Or, yeah, even we have a second round draft pick at number 41. He will have to abide to these rules. So he will have to sign the veterans minimum, which he probably will if we don't trade him. Yes. So back to these being veteran minimums. So again, with Looney and GP2, you only get one NBA career. Like you only live once, so you get the one NBA career. If you're offered just a little bit more, then yeah, you got to weigh that. But that's your last chance to make that extra million. Lou Williams just recently, I don't know if you saw the viral clip that he had on somebody's podcast where he gave the example of where a $5 million contract whittles down quite quickly to like around $1 million or under $1 million. You're a thousandaire because first of all, take away half for taxes. And he goes, then you got your NBPA dues, you got your agent fee, you got your financial advisor fee, you got your this, that, and you got your car, your this and that. So you have to be very careful because suddenly what looks on paper to be 5 million becomes under $1 million. And then when you think of that, they have those debts and obligations for years afterwards. That's how they become broke, is because you're out of the league and then you still have all these bills as if you were in the NBA, and it's like a boulder coming down at you.
Yeah.
That's just
the league's gotten a lot better at helping guys with that, though, I would say.
Yeah. It was crazy. He said the NBPA, the dues for players, or each player in the NBPA, $20,000. Dang, that sucks if you're Braxton Key. You got to fork out 20 grand of your 200,000 or whatever salary.
You got to pay your dues, man.
For your pension and healthcare. But yeah, anyways. So GP2 and Looney, if they're offered more than veterans minimum, and then they would probably be offered something enticing instead of just $1 million over a veterans minimum, like something respectable.
Sorry, for who?
GP2 or Looney, I think it'd be hard for them to come back on a veterans minimum here when you're being offered more over there.
I actually don't agree with that. I think those guys are really happy in Golden State. Seem to not want to leave because Loon could have gotten a lot bigger contract last time he signed one.
I don't know about that.
By the way, both of them stayed. Obviously, Gary famously wanted to be a video coordinator and stuff. So I think they might come back just to be. You can't put a price on happiness. Yeah.
I'm just saying, don't be surprised if GP2 or Looney, they get offered more than vet men. I'm really okay with them leaving if they're offered more than a veterans minimum.
Yeah, that's not what I want, obviously. But if they want to make more money, I think they've been underpaid, honestly. Especially that guy's got 3 rings, been to 5 finals. If I were to pick a dark horse candidate getting their number retired that you wouldn't expect, it might be Looney.
Yeah.
Miles Turner's playing in the finals. They're probably not going to trade him. I don't want to be too hard because we are setting the bar kind of high here. But it tends to be that they're going to want to get rid of a center when they don't have another center on their team to replace what that guy does for a 22-year-old power forward, for instance. Yeah, I think it's unlikely that the Pacers trade Miles Turner. He has been in conversations around the Warriors for a long time. So I guess I understand where you're coming from on that one.
I don't see any difference between years of pining for Miles Turner versus years of pining for Giannis. What is the difference? You have to come up
Turner's
with...
a lot more available than Giannis. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think he has been.
No, not now.
Not now, not last year, not the year before that, not the year before that. I'm just throwing my Miles Turner aficionados under the bus while I have the chance. No, really, it's just what's the difference between having this obsession for obtaining Miles Turner over the last 2 or 3 years than Giannis. Miles Turner hasn't been available. It's clear that Indiana wanted him and kept him. Good for them. What I'm really saying is don't be mad at Joe Lacob and Mike Dunleavy that we didn't get Miles Turner for the same reason you shouldn't be mad at them for not getting Giannis. I don't care how many years we're at this. Every year we're at this. We will never come close to the knowledge that they have. All we can do is look at the empirical evidence that they leave behind and maybe a few journalists that have sources. It's like a perpetual cycle of trying to predict what our management is going to do, and it being damn near impossible because we'll never have the level of insight and contacts that a Mike Dunleavy would have. It starts with understanding what the difference is between information and education, leaning heavily towards information and learning, creating things to root for. It's more trying to really embody what it's like to be within the walls of Chase Center, what it's like to think as Dunleavy thinks, think as Steve Kerr thinks. You don't necessarily have to agree with it, but think how he thinks and understand the context and respect their point of view. I think that's lacking in this day and age with the quick fix type mentality. Just some deep thoughts as to not being too addicted to just throwing out trade scenario names and saying we need this, we need that. Everybody knows we need more height, we need more length, we need more rebounding, and we need more shooting. We all know that. All right, Braxton Key and Taron Armstrong, I just wouldn't worry about it. I think they're part of the Santa Cruz and Golden State family. Every year, we're going to fall in love with one of these end of the roster guys. So it's okay. Just know that those guys tend to have a lot of turnover every year, whether it's Juan Toscano Anderson, whether it's Quindary Weatherspoon, right? So you got to keep your arm's length sometimes on some of these guys. You can't fall in love with too many of them if you have that despair of loss. So I would say don't have that despair of loss in the first place. It's okay to open your heart for a guy like Taron Armstrong without feeling any depression for losing him when the time comes. Maybe he'll just keep blossoming and become a key second or third unit guy coming up. I think he's got a lot of hope because if you watched him play, he's got a lot of pizzazz. How's Kevin Knox? Okay. Yeah, good question. Let's look at his contract, right? Yeah, what we always do. We go take a look. Hoops Hype. Kevin Knox is a free agent. So just like Dante DiVincenzo, he's a free agent. So good luck, Kevin Knox. Go get that contract. And if not, we'd love to have you as a vet minimum. I'm pretty sure we have the G League rights to Braxton Key and Taron Armstrong. And I would really be shocked if another team comes along and goes, oh yeah, Taron Armstrong, we'll give you a regular NBA contract. That's risky for them. So don't overthink it. We'll be fine. I think we should expect to have those guys back. But hey, it was cool to hang out with you guys. 5:30 for finals. Bean Chambers.
What's up, Rich?
If we can get Bruce to, maybe I'll just buy you NBA 2K. It's not that expensive. How much?
Yeah, you can stream these trade ideas on 2K.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you're streaming with Naz Reid on the team, etc.
2K26 this September, sounds like, maybe.
We'd want to start before then. I imagine 2K25's cheaper right now, right?
I don't know. I imagine they maximize the sales until the new one comes out, actually.
Oh, I would have no idea.
Do you have any feeling on the finals, Rich?
Oh, yeah. We already did the poll. We'll do another one tomorrow. I think OKC just doesn't really have enough weaknesses. Indy is
They're lacking weaknesses, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm rooting for Indy as the underdog.
Yeah.
I think OKC's going to be fine the next few years. So they don't really have too much to worry about. And yeah, I have a bias against OKC because of the whole steal a franchise from Seattle.
KD.
Yeah, you can talk about your thing with KD. But yeah, I'm rooting for the Pacers. But if you put a gun to my head and said, make a bet with hard-earned money, I'd have to bet OKC to win the finals. What about you, D?
Yeah, I agree with what you said. I don't have a problem with them at all. But
I got a problem with the Thunder crowd.
you do?
You know what it is? It's just the fact that they have those little cardboard things that you fold up and they make a lot of noise. Can we get some organic noise from you guys? Show me without the use of those clapper things where you fold up the cardboard and it makes a strong noise when you flick it like this. That's not fair. That's like cowbells.
I get that. Although I think that would be super loud either way.
You don't have a disdain of OKC for Clay Bennett moving them from Seattle?
Oh, I do. For that, yeah. And I love that the real Clay knocked him out last time they were in the conference finals. I've gotten the finals right since 22 on here. I picked the Warriors.
Whoa, I got to write that down.
The Nuggets over. I picked the Celtics over the Mavericks. So it would be easier to pick the favorites and try and keep that going. But I'm just feeling that great as OKC is, the Pacers have something going on there. And I don't know what it is, man. It feels like the year of Indiana.
Okay.
Caitlin Clark went to Iowa. She's on the Fever. Okay. Tyrese Halliburton went to Iowa State. He's on the Pacers.
Yeah. So did Brock Purdy. Yay.
Yeah. There you go.
No, I am rooting for the Pacers, but I don't like to make predictions because I'm always wrong. So
I wouldn't do that stuff with the Warriors because we're much more invested with that team and just got to wait. But without a horse in the race, I'm fine with making a prediction, personally. And here's one more thing, too.
Okay.
Living in LA, the 2020 chip, I know people make fun of it, but that's also the chip the year Kobe died and everything. And Caruso was a really important part of that. He's a great champion. But Pascal Siakam is the best champion over the Final Four in the conference finals. And
I'm very impressed. Yeah.
And he's already a champion.
Yeah.
They have the better champion.
I got you.
Really like the way they play. Indiana Pacers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I really do think, I'm glad Indiana beat New York just in terms of, I don't think New York would have had as much hope against the OKC, just their style of play and size or lack thereof. So, yeah.
And Indiana plays like a Western team, too.
Yeah, I love it, actually. Yeah. I love the fact that they can full court press every now and then. How did Carlisle know, man? I got to tip my hat to Carlisle. How did he know that this squad could do a pace like that? That's pretty cool.
They did it better than the Celtics even when Tatum was healthy, which is pretty surprising. Yeah. The clutch aspect obviously is really cool.
And Pascal fit right in, man. What a great signing. But I
love their depth. They got a little bit of strength in numbers type deal going on. Bring guys off the bench.
You had to know that obviously Tyrese coming to the squad, you could do that. But then everybody else had to fit in place and buy into that too. And they went young. And the other thing I love is that they have freaking Aaron Nesmith, who's a great pick and roll defender. Hey, all you young Warriors, can you just watch him, how he defends the pick and roll? Not that you're as strong as him. You have to be as strong and agile and athletic. But then behind him is Benedict Mathurin, and behind him is Jarris Walker. Where do they get these guys? That's amazing. That's the depth chart on Aaron Nesmith at the 3. Nesmith, Mathurin, Jarris, they're all the same. Strong, stocky, 6'6", 6'7". How do they do that? That's great. And then, Obi Toppin, man, that's great roster building. And then great choice of Carlisle.
Yeah, Nembhard, McConnell.
To make it all work and full court press as much as they do. Wow, it's really impressive. Yeah, so I do think there's a chance. Yeah.
We're in the vast minority, though. All the national people that I've listened to. And I don't listen to national people just because they're big. I listen to them because I really respect them. They're all saying Thunder in 5 or 6, I think.
5? Come on.
Yes. No, statistically, they do have a point in that the Thunder have been dominating teams like few teams before them. Okay. And I'm rooting for the Pacers. I don't think saying Thunder in 5 is disrespectful because they really are that good of a team.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
But I think there's something weird going on in Indy. I think there's something
I hope you're right.
With that team.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't really know. But
it would be better for the Warriors, actually, if the Thunder won, if you think about it.
Oh, really?
It's a lot harder to defend a championship than to win one these days.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's hard to win, but it's even harder to defend it.
Yeah.
But if they lost, I'd worry that they'd be
hungry again.
Yeah, it'd be really good, probably even better. I'm so hungry, but I have to pick what I think. I think it's Pacers in 7.
Oh, okay. I don't want to predict, so I'm gonna stay out of that. But
I'll have a good time no matter what. I think
I'll be rooting.
Although I would not like a sweep either way.
Yeah, true. Cool, man.
Thank you for having me on, Rich.
What made you decide to shave the beard?
It's a new time, man. New time, new look. Turn the tassel from right to left, and you got your whole life ahead of you, man.
Yeah.
And it's hot, dude. Having a beard in the winter is great. In the summer, it's a little.
All right, so let's pull up the Cholo file. The new people, you got to know what the Cholo file is, and it's right here.
That's from our regular guy, Cholo, Mr. Cholo Evans.
Yeah, where's Cholo? Get him on, everybody.
Let's go. You call him Val's or Val's?
He came here today talking about how he got a new blicky.
For the uninformed, what's a blicky?
You don't know about no blicky, man. You had a blicky?
He said, "Come on."
You told me you had a blicky growing up.
Yeah.
He was a shooter. Yeah, that's a blicky.
More fire.
All right. See you tomorrow, Dean. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Rich. See you tomorrow.